With the Gotham TV show in full swing, that age-old question comes up once more. We see terrible things happening in this city, from weaponized hallucinogens, exploding hospitals, neon paint, bombs you just can't get rid of, and of course, bat nipples. So why in the world do people choose to stay and live in Gotham City? Well, let's find out. Welcome to Comic Misconceptions, a show that takes you into detail about the things you think you know about comics. I'm your host, Scott Nicewander, and I'm sure you've thought about this question or encountered it somewhere online or among your friends about why, with all the terrible things that happen in Gotham City, do people choose to stay and live there? Well, today, I want to try and answer that question. Just to be clear though, I'm not going to list why people should stay, but rather why they do stay, and why we, as outside viewers, think that they are crazy for it. These arguments could probably also be applied to other cities where fictional disasters happen, like Metropolis or Marvel's New York City.
So, this all seems horrible.
Let's start it off with a big one, optimism bias, or comparative optimism, otherwise known as the well, it's not gonna happen to me mindset. We've all had this thought in one way or another, whether it's something simple like, well, I don't need a case on my phone because I'm not gonna drop it, or something even bigger like, I'm not gonna wear a seatbelt because I'm a careful driver. As a citizen of Gotham, it could be something like, sure, criminals are constantly going on killing sprees, but I'm a good person, I'll keep my head down, do my job. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'll be fine. People tend to focus on what they want to happen instead of what will likely happen. The more that you don't want something, the less likely you see it happening to you. You don't want to die by the hands of some psychopath that escaped from Arkham, so your mind tells you that that's not gonna happen. As the desire to live increases, the perceived likelihood of you dying decreases. And again, that's the perceived likelihood, not the actual likelihood. You really, really want to live, so your mind tells you that you will be perfectly fine. But it actually goes a bit further than that. This bias doesn't just make you feel safer in dangerous situations, it actually makes you more reckless. In negative scenarios, comparative optimism can actually make you more likely to engage in risky behavior or fail to take the necessary safety precautions. If you're a Blackgate prison guard or in some other position where you watch over dangerous people as a part of your job, it's actually pretty likely that you will get sloppy with the safety procedures counterintuitively and put you or someone else at risk because of it. You know that the Joker's a threatening criminal, but that's not gonna stop your brain from telling you that you'll be fine taking on this lunatic by yourself in an enclosed space. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Again, the basis of comparative optimism is the belief that negative scenarios are less likely to happen to you as opposed to other people, even though they could totally happen to you just as easily. As an average citizen of Gotham, this type of thinking might just be enough to keep you from moving out of Gotham, even though we as outside viewers think that you are crazy for staying. Positive illusions can be very helpful when facing life-threatening or stressful scenarios, and can even help build up your psychological resilience, aka the ability to adapt to difficult or traumatic events. So over time, Gothamites could just get used to these things happening frequently. But I think the biggest factor in why we as outsiders think it's crazy that people would live in Gotham after all that's happened there has got to be our own cognitive biases. We do this a lot in our lives. We establish a point of view or belief, and then we seek out information that supports that belief and ignore, or at least don't put a lot of weight in, opposing facts. As a YouTuber, I know this pretty well. You see one negative comment amongst a sea of compliments, and that's all you can focus on. As comic fans, you might have a friend who hates your favorite character. You try to explain all the good in them and why they're so awesome, but your friend just doesn't care. They fixate on the bad and the flaws and don't care about anything that discredits their point of view. A lot of us are pretty stubborn, and it's really hard to get past that. So now, allow me to propose this idea. Gotham City isn't actually as bad as we think it is. I know what you're thinking, Scott. Gotham is terrible. There are so many awful things that happen there on such a regular basis. How could it be anything less than agony to live there? You're absolutely right. There are a lot of awful things that happen in Gotham, but there's also a lot of good that happens there. The problem is that we, as readers, aren't exposed to the good nearly as much as we are with the bad, because a story without conflict isn't terribly interesting. We want to see Batman beating people up and places exploding and psychopaths creating trouble, and that can skew our idea of Gotham as this gritty, wretched haunted place where death and destruction just means it's another Tuesday. We as readers, for the most part, are only subjected to the horrible, absurd, and bizarre crimes and disasters that happen in Gotham, and not really subjected to all the good that happens there. No news place covers Joe the construction worker who had a productive day today and went home to visit his family and had a lovely dinner. It's not news. The idea of nothing happening isn't something to report on, so nobody does.
Coming up next, can bees think? A new study confirms that no, they cannot.
And when nobody reports on it, you don't get exposed to it as much as when crazy things happen. Your mind tells you in kind of this weird paradox that crime is the norm because that's all anyone's reporting on, but they're only reporting on it because it's not the norm. And I know comic books aren't newspapers, but I want to believe that a similar way of thinking applies here. Depending on the timeline of Batman, Gotham could have anywhere between 2 million to 10 million people. That's a lot of people. How many of those people do you think have zero run-ins with criminals on a daily basis? I would argue probably a majority. But again, we don't often hear from those people because if Batman's taking down Clayface, let's just focus on that. That sounds a lot more interesting. Gotham City probably isn't that bad of a place to live. The Thomas and Martha Wayne Foundations, for instance, provide much needed help to many different areas and aspects of life in Gotham. But all you're presented with are the appalling stories of tragedy, and we skip over the fact that there's a lot of normal people just living normal lives. But that doesn't really fit with our belief of what Gotham City is, so we discredit any information that opposes what we consider to be true. Like when I was a kid and I found out that it snows in Australia, or when I visited Texas and found that people's main mode of transportation is cars instead of the majestic horse. Those did not correspond with my beliefs about those places, and if you just told me that, I would not believe you. I had to go to Texas myself and see that people don't ride around on horseback everywhere. I still choose not to believe the thing about Australia because that doesn't make sense to me. But hopefully an Australian NerdSync viewer can set the record straight. The point is that we as readers will never know what it's like to live in Gotham City. We can only view it from an outside angle that has been crafted by the writers and the artists to depict exactly what they want to show about Gotham City. The same way that movies and TV shows might reinforce what you think a place you've never been to should look like instead of how it actually is. What do you guys think? Is it reasonable to believe that people of Gotham could stay and live there if they develop the right mindset? Is Gotham even that bad of a place to live in the first place? Or does all of this mean absolutely nothing and people should move out as soon as possible? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you go listen to this week's podcast with Ricky from Stu Dippin. We talked about the future of the DC Cinematic Universe and the big announcement that DC made recently about all of their movies. Super fun podcast, really funny. You can check it out on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and right here on YouTube, if one of those things is your thing. And if this is your first time hanging out with us here at NerdSync, we'd love you to hit that big sexy subscribe button right down below. We do weekly comic book videos just like this one every Wednesday, and we don't want you to miss out on any of it. So please subscribe. Once again, I'm Scott. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll see you right here next week for more things that you thought you knew about comics. See ya.